going, guys? Welcome back. Hold My Helmet Football Podcast. I'm your host, Will Reichling. Brock Purdy finally getting paid by the San Francisco 49ers. 5 years, $265 million, $181 million fully guaranteed. That brings him to $53 million in annual average value. So if you factor in the last year of his rookie contract, which is $5 million, it really is $45 million over the next 6 years. Annual average value. So I don't think this is a bad deal. I hear a lot of analysts, a lot of media saying this Brock Purdy deal, they bent the Niners over backwards. This is a ripoff. The Niners should not have paid this to Purdy. He gets carried. He always has a super team. We're going to get into that. Because I have some pushback on that. I really do. I think personally that Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback. I think that that you could win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. Now, with his new $53 million annual average value with this new contract, that puts him tied for 7th in the league. 7th highest annual average value in the league. So, who's ahead of him? We got number 1, $60 million, Dak Prescott. So, yes, I would take Dak Prescott over Brock Purdy. But is the gap really that wide? I don't think so. I think with a couple more good to great years, I would take Brock Purdy over Dak Prescott. Brock Purdy's beaten Dak Prescott in multiple games. Brock Purdy has shown, first off, Brock Purdy's won more playoff games, and 2, Brock Purdy has played and produced in more bigger games than Dak Prescott. So I would take Dak over Brock, but a couple more years, Brock keeps playing the way Brock's been playing, especially those first 2 years. I would take Brock Purdy over Dak. Then you have Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, $55 million per year. Not going to argue that. Those are elite quarterbacks, top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league. Not going to go there. Brock Purdy's not that. But Trevor Lawrence, can you compare Brock Purdy to Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence got $55 million per year. As of right now, I would take Brock Purdy over Trevor Lawrence. Brock Purdy's won more playoff games. Brock Purdy's thrown more touchdowns in the regular season, has had a higher passer rating, has produced more in the NFL than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence might have been the better college player, but Brock Purdy has been the better NFL player than Trevor Lawrence. Brock Purdy's produced more, won more playoff games, made a Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence won a playoff game where he had to come back down 27, where he threw 4 picks in the first half. Honestly, it's not even close right now. Brock Purdy, higher passer rating, more wins. I would go Brock Purdy over Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence making $2 million more per year than Brock Purdy. If I'm Brock Purdy's agent, that's exactly what I'm arguing. That guy's making $55 million a year, and I'm making pennies. That guy was drafted number 1 overall, and I was drafted last. That's my argument if I'm Brock Purdy. Jordan Love, $55 million. Look, I love Jordan Love's talent, but last year he was up and down. He pretty much got paid $55 million per year on 8 great games, elite playoff game against Dallas, but let alone getting paid on half a season of work. So I would take Jordan Love over Brock Purdy, but Jordan Love's God-given ability, his arm talent. I would take Love, but Purdy's produced more than Jordan Love. So again, I don't think that's crazy to say Purdy is somewhere in the same stratosphere as Love right now. Love hasn't produced as much as Purdy, and Love has more upside. But again, $55 million per year off 8 games. If I'm Brock Purdy's agent, I'm arguing that too. Tua, $53.1 million per year. $0.1 million per year more than Brock Purdy. And I would take Brock Purdy over Tua. Tua gets hurt more. Tua chokes more in big games. Tua has never won a playoff game. Purdy has produced more than Tua, won more playoff games, has thrown more touchdowns in the regular season, had a higher passer rating. Tua has been a better NFL player than... Purdy has been a better NFL player than Tua Tagovailoa. And then after him, you got Goff at $53 million. I would take Goff over Purdy. But again, the gap is not gigantic. It really isn't. Herbert, $52.5 million. Lamar, $52 million. Not going to argue that. But then Jalen Hurts, $51 million. Jalen Hurts is a great example of a guy who people say got carried by his roster, got carried by his team, doesn't have great ability from the pocket as a thrower, isn't the most gifted player, kind of gets carried by a great roster, a great GM who can pick great players, and finally wins a Super Bowl, and all that kind of gets erased. You hear people talking about Jalen Hurts like he's a top 5 quarterback now. I've heard analysts argue Jalen Hurts to be a top 5 quarterback. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he's top 10 for sure, top 8, top 5, I don't know. But that's what happens when you win a Super Bowl. You get respect. Purdy's made a Super Bowl, did not win it though. So Jalen Hurts is a very similar mold as Purdy as far as a guy that kind of people thought was a little overrated, getting carried by a great roster, wins a Super Bowl, gets respect. But if you really look at Brock Purdy's numbers in the first 3 years of his career, they have been, not only have they been like elite, they've been beyond elite. They've been absolutely absurd. They've been crazy, his numbers. Purdy doesn't have the minimum number of passing attempts required to be considered in any kind of all-time ranks or all-time leaderboard. But if he needs about 500 more attempts. But if he had enough attempts, he would have the highest passer rating of all time. 104.9, literally 2 points more, over 2 points more than Aaron Rodgers, who's in second place at 102.6. So Brock Purdy, if he had enough pass attempts, would have the highest passer rating of all time right now. He would have the second highest yards per attempt in his career, behind Otto Graham. Otto Graham, who played in, the 40s? Brock Purdy is the second most yards per attempt in the history of the NFL. Just needs to get 500 more attempts, but he's been a gunslinger so far. I don't think that's going to change much. And the fact that he has the second most yards per attempt in NFL history, and the fourth highest completion percentage in NFL history, if he had enough attempts, 67.5 completion percentage. Usually, when a guy has a lot of yards per attempt, a gunslinger, you expect his completion percentage to be lower. But the fact that he is the fourth highest completion percentage of all time and the second most yards per attempt of all time, he's a gunslinger that completes the gunslinging passes. He's a gunslinger that produces on the gunslinging throws. That's like Steph Curry. It's like a three-point shooter shooting 60% from the field total, almost like a center would. That's how crazy this is. The fact that he's throwing the ball as far as he's throwing it and completing it at the rate that he is. These are absurd numbers. So he would be first all-time passer rating. He would literally be second all-time in yards per attempt. He would be fourth all-time in completion percentage. And he's made two NFC championship games. And he made a Super Bowl. He probably would make two Super Bowls if he didn't hurt himself and miss most of the game in the first NFC championship game. So I understand that he's had a stacked roster. I understand that people say that, having Christian McCaffrey, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Kittle has benefited for Brock Purdy, but it's ridiculously hard to put up the numbers that he has in his career so far, no matter what team you have, okay? Mahomes hasn't put up numbers like this. It's just insane. So I understand that his third year, he fell off a little bit. That team was decimated. That team was completely decimated with injuries everywhere. Offense, defense, defensive line, offensive line, wide receivers, running back. They were just completely decimated. So I think it's a little unfair to say that Brock Purdy didn't produce when he didn't have all of his weapons. They were literally decimated. So he did the best he could. I think he's going to bounce back this year. I think he's going to have a huge year. Why? 1, Niners. Easiest schedule in the league, if not second easiest schedule in the league. 2, they get weapons back like Brandon Ayuk. Jawan Jennings you still have there. You got Ricky Pearsall coming for his second season under his belt. You just paid Kittle, extended him. McCaffrey's coming back from injury. Fred Warner you just extended. So I think Purdy is due for a huge, huge, huge bounce back here. I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that he's getting overpaid. He's average at best. If it wasn't for Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch probably wouldn't have a job anymore. They move up, draft Trey Lance, trade multiple picks away for him. Draft Trey Lance, literally isn't even a backup in the league. Isn't even a backup. So not only could he not start for the Niners, he couldn't even be a capable backup in the league. So that was an embarrassing pick. But again, it was a COVID year, understandable. They get Brock Purdy in the last pick of the draft. He's produced. He kind of saved both of their jobs. I know Kyle Shanahan's an elite head coach, but he would have been looking for another job, trust me. So Brock Purdy just kind of saved the Niners away. So I feel like they kind of owed him this, and I feel like he's still going to produce. He's still young. He's had 3 full seasons in the league, really 2.5 full seasons. So you don't think he could get better? He could get better at the line of scrimmage. He could get better with his timing. He can get better with his chemistry with his receivers. So I think there's a lot more room for Brock Purdy to grow. And I just don't think it's necessarily fair to come at him about making this much money when he's produced the way he has. Think about all the other rookies on their rookie contracts in NFL history. Who has produced the way Brock Purdy has produced? Being the last pick in the draft, and I think there's a little stigmatism with that too, but being the last pick in the draft and putting up Hall of Fame-like numbers, wouldn't you think that guy would get paid? Wouldn't you think that guy would get paid? So I think a lot of it has to do with him being at the end of the draft, the last pick in the draft, but let's be honest, he probably was underdrafted. He probably was worth a 4th, 5th round pick. And, Shedeur Sanders, who people think was Also underdrafted, going in the 5th round. I see a lot of similarities there. Accurate, can move a little bit. Like, I really do think Brock Purdy was underdrafted in that draft. Yes, he went last, and he probably should have been a 4th, 5th rounder, but clearly there's value in Brock Purdy. I see him move. You watch his highlights, he can play. This guy can play. He's a gunslinger, he's aggressive, and he's perfect for Kyle Shanahan's system. So I really think that Brock Purdy earned this deal, and I think that he's going to show why he earned this deal very, very soon.